America is the only place where someone will demand a refund because their blender looked too judgmental, and the manager will actually consider it. And somehow, that's not even the strangest part. Buckle up, it gets dumber. 1. A big box store's returns desk was ambushed by a man dragging in a mattress that looked like it had survived 3 presidential administrations and possibly a small civil war. He slammed it on the counter and demanded a full refund because, according to him, the mattress betrayed him by losing its firmness. A surprising accusation considering the tag clearly stated it was purchased 8 years and several questionable life choices ago. The employee gently explained that refunds don't usually apply to items that now resemble archaeological samples. The man countered with a passionate speech about American guarantees, which sounded less like consumer rights and more like a constitutional amendment he personally drafted at 3 a.m. Eventually, when told the store wouldn't refund a mattress that had clearly been used as a trampoline, dog bed, and emotional support landfill, he stormed out, declaring he'd take this to corporate. Corporate, presumably, is still recovering from the email. 2. A grocery store employee watched a woman march confidently to the service desk holding a half-eaten rotisserie chicken in one hand and a determination that could power a small city in the other. She requested a refund because the chicken didn't taste the way she imagined it would, which is a fascinating standard considering imagination has no nutritional facts label. The bird was stripped so clean it looked like it had been used as part of a forensic anthropology lecture. When asked why she finished it if it was so disappointing, she claimed she was performing a thorough taste test for quality assurance purposes, a job no one hired her for. The manager offered a coupon, but she rejected it, insisting on a full refund to honor the integrity of the culinary arts. Eventually, she left unsatisfied, clutching her empty container like a fallen soldier, proving that some people believe disappointment entitles them to store credit. 3. A tech store received a return request from a guy who brought in a tablet so shattered it looked like it had been used to deflect a medieval attack. He explained with complete sincerity that the device shouldn't break if dropped from a normal height. When asked to clarify the height, he admitted it was from his second-floor balcony, but insisted that was basically eye level when you're tall and confident. The employee informed him that gravity still applies regardless of ego. The customer then blamed the tablet for not developing self-preservation instincts and presented a YouTube video of himself dropping it repeatedly for science. The manager, perhaps impressed by the commitment to idiocy, offered a repair discount, which the customer declined because he believed Apple should reward innovation. He left without a refund, but with the world's most expensive pile of glittering glass dust, still convinced he discovered a flaw in physics, not in his judgment. 4. A woman marched into a department store with a winter coat that had clearly lived through multiple blizzards, one divorce, and possibly a minor house fire. She demanded a refund because the coat didn't keep her warm emotionally, a metric the warranty department had somehow failed to anticipate. When asked what exactly she meant, she explained the coat didn't make her feel cozy inside, as if the garment were responsible for her spiritual temperature. The zipper was broken, several buttons were missing, and the lining looked like it had attempted escape. The employee gently reminded her the coat was purchased 5 years ago, which she countered by saying it was 5 years of disappointment. She insisted the company owed her for emotional damages, a phrase that made the shift supervisor reconsider his career path entirely. When told no, she dramatically declared she'd switch brands forever, delivering it like a Hollywood breakup monologue. The store survived. 5. A returns associate found himself facing a man holding a blender that had been melted into modern art. The man explained he tried making restaurant-quality fondue by placing the entire appliance, motor base included, on a stovetop burner because heat makes things melt faster, so the blender should help. When the associate asked why he thought exposing electronics to open flame was a good idea, the man said the manual didn't explicitly forbid culinary experimentation. The blender's cord was fused into a neon-black sculpture of poor decision-making, and the picture was warped like a Salvador Dalí painting. He demanded a full refund plus compensation for the chocolate he wasted, which added tragic depth to the story. When the store refused, he accused them of stifling innovation and left in disgust, carrying the world's first fire-grilled household appliance. The stove survived, the blender did not, and the fondue, tragically, never reached its destiny. 6. A customer attempted to return a vacuum cleaner filled with enough pet hair to knit a sweater for a golden retriever. She insisted the machine stopped working randomly, while simultaneously shedding evidence that it had never once been emptied in its operational lifetime. The filter was clogged like a suburban PTA schedule, and the hose emitted a sound reminiscent of a dying accordion. When staff explained that vacuums cannot inhale several months' worth of shedding season without consequences, she insisted the device should be self-cleaning because technology exists. The manager offered to unclog it for her, which she declined, declaring it a matter of principle. Her principle, apparently, was that a vacuum should function like a magical portal that teleports debris to another dimension. She left upset, still clutching the fur-filled machine like a fuzzy time bomb, certain she'd been wronged by the laws of machinery and the grooming habits of mammals. 7. A shoe store employee was confronted by a man returning sneakers that had clearly run a marathon, a half marathon, a Tough Mudder, and possibly a small-scale escape attempt. The soles were worn down to geological layers, and the fabric had been stretched into a shape best described as foot-adjacent. He insisted they caused him emotional distress because they didn't make him run faster, claiming the ad said they were performance shoes, and he expected at least a 10% boost to his athletic potential. When informed that shoes cannot overcome biology, dehydration, or the 3 chili dogs he admitted eating before the race, he argued that false advertising had robbed him of Olympic greatness. The employee noted the shoes were purchased 2 years ago, which he dismissed as irrelevant to the principle of athletic betrayal. He demanded a refund, a public apology, and possibly a sponsorship. He received none of the above. 8. A woman showed up with a giant plastic Christmas tree that smelled suspiciously like a bonfire and declared she wanted a refund because it didn't meet safety standards. Upon inspection, employees discovered the tree was safe until she tried lighting actual candles on the branches for authenticity, a phrase that made the fire marshal and everyone's soul scream. She explained that old-fashioned Christmas imagery included candlelit trees, so she expected her modern one to withstand open flame as a courtesy. The manager patiently clarified that nothing made of synthetic plastic was designed to handle becoming a birthday cake. She insisted that if the company sold a fire-resistant product, she should be able to set small indoor flames on it without consequences. The charred tree resembled the ghost of bad decisions. She demanded a full refund and left furious when denied, convinced she had discovered a corporate conspiracy against nostalgia. 9. A customer marched into a home improvement store dragging a cracked toilet bowl that looked like it had experienced a spiritual awakening via blunt force trauma. He insisted the toilet failed under pressure, which turned out to mean he attempted to stand on the rim to change a ceiling light because chairs are for amateurs. When the associate gently pointed out that toilets aren't engineered to support adult acrobatics, the man defended himself by claiming it seemed sturdy enough and blamed the manufacturer for structural dishonesty. Upon hearing that misuse voids all warranties, he tried arguing the instructions didn't explicitly forbid using the toilet as a multi-purpose ladder. The ceramic crater he brought in said otherwise. He demanded a replacement because the toilet broke itself, a phrase that lives rent-free in the employee's memory. He left toiletless and outraged at the betrayal of bathroom engineering. 10. A woman presented a wilted houseplant that resembled a botanical ghost and asked for a refund because it didn't have the will to live. When questioned, she admitted she forgot plants need water, but insisted the store should sell emotionally stronger vegetation. The leaves were so crispy they could have been used as alternative tortilla chips. She explained she expected the plant to self-regulate hydration the way her phone self-updates, revealing a level of ecological confusion that could cause the Amazon rainforest to weep. The employee asked how long it had gone unwatered. She answered, "I think 3 months," as if confessing to a crime. She demanded her money back for a plant she personally dehydrated into organic confetti. When refused, she accused the store of selling quitters. The plant, unfortunately, had indeed quit weeks ago. 11. A sports store employee stared at a deflated basketball that looked like it had been run over by Optimism and a midsize SUV. The customer claimed the ball was faulty because it didn't bounce during his pickup game. Witnesses, however, reported he attempted a dunk contest using the ball on a gravel driveway, where it promptly skidded into a cactus patch like a suicidal tumbleweed. The ball returned full of spines, emotional damage, and 0 PSI. When informed that punctured rubber cannot be refunded, he insisted cactus thorns shouldn't count as damage because they're natural. The manager countered that nature still defeats plastic. He then argued the ball should have been tough enough for real street play, despite being marketed for indoor courts. He demanded a refund, a replacement, and possibly a sponsorship deal with the NBA. He received a polite no and the world's saddest basketball. 12. A man marched into an appliance store carrying a toaster that rattled ominously, like it was hiding secrets. It turned out the secrets were coins, several dollars worth, because he had been using the toaster as a piggy bank to save counter space. Unsurprisingly, the toaster died after being forced to cook both bread and currency. He blamed the company for not supporting multi-purpose lifestyles. The employee informed him that toasters aren't designed to heat U.S. Mint products, nor to endure the sparks created when metal meets heating coils. The man insisted the toaster should have adapted because society is evolving. When denied a refund for his crispy coin vault, he argued he was actually helping the economy by warming up circulation. The toaster, meanwhile, resembled a confused slot machine. He left outraged, carrying a fire hazard with an attitude problem. 13. A beauty store dealt with a customer who returned an empty bottle of luxury shampoo and explained that although she used the entire product, she decided she didn't vibe with the scent afterward. The bottle was pristine because she hadn't just used it, she had cherished it. She claimed her refund should be approved since she didn't like how the shampoo made her feel existentially. When asked why she waited until the bottle was completely drained to voice her dissatisfaction, she replied that she needed a full emotional arc before deciding. The employee gently explained that refunds don't apply to products someone has squeezed to death. She insisted she'd been misled by the fragrance notes, a phrase suggesting she believed the shampoo possessed a moral compass. Denied a refund, she left, proclaiming aromatherapy fraud. 14. A toy store employee encountered a father returning a remote control car that had been reduced to glittering rubble. He claimed the toy malfunctioned when it launched off his roof at full speed. When the staff asked why he drove it off the roof, he explained he wanted to test the aerodynamics because the box said the toy was high performance. The debris suggested the performance peaked at the leap and immediately retired upon impact with the driveway. The father demanded a refund because a real high-performance vehicle would have survived. The manager responded that the toy was not, in fact, a military-grade drone. He insisted the car was defective. The car, in pieces, disagreed. He left carrying a bag of shards and an unfulfilled dream of flight. 15. A customer confidently returned a microwave covered in scorch marks, explaining she attempted to disinfect it by running it empty for 20 minutes because heat kills germs. The microwave disagreed and attempted spontaneous combustion, transforming into a small domestic volcano. She argued the manual should have warned her specifically not to cook nothing, insisting the lack of instructions constituted corporate negligence. The employee clarified that microwaves rely on food to absorb energy and aren't designed to blast raw radiation at their own insides like a self-destructive sauna. She insisted the machine should be built to endure healthy cleaning habits, a phrase suggesting she believed appliances should survive targeted torture. Denied a refund, she left with her charred microwave, still unconvinced the laws of physics apply to hygiene routines. 16. A home goods store employee was greeted by a man clutching a frying pan bent so dramatically it resembled modern interpretive sculpture. He demanded a refund because the pan failed under normal cooking pressure, though the dent suggested it had participated in some kind of amateur demolition derby. When asked what he was cooking, he revealed he'd tried tenderizing frozen meat by hitting it with enthusiasm, apparently believing the pan was both cookware and medieval weaponry. The pan, having survived blows that would make a blacksmith wince, finally folded in protest. He insisted the manufacturer should have anticipated aggressive culinary styles and accused the employee of siding with big cookware. When told improper use voided the warranty, he declared himself a victim of culinary betrayal and left with the wounded pan, which remained shaped like a boomerang that refused to return. 17. A customer strolled into an electronics store holding a gaming controller wrapped in duct tape like it was recovering from a bar fight. According to him, the controller snapped on its own, though he admitted he'd been using it during what he described as a competitive moment, which everyone else would call a tantrum with surround sound. The device had been thrown, kicked, and possibly cursed at, yet he insisted it should withstand emotional gameplay. When staff explained that manufacturers do not design controllers to survive reenactments of mythological battles, he argued that durability claims should include psychological stress testing. The buttons were jammed, the shell cracked, and the joysticks misaligned enough to qualify as abstract art. Denied a refund, he insisted the controller was defective for not withstanding normal gamer intensity, then stormed out in search of a sturdier outlet for his wrath. 18. A woman arrived at a pet store with a dog bed that looked like it had been personally shredded by a tornado with a grudge. She demanded her money back because the bed did not resist chewing, as though the product were supposed to serve as an indestructible fortress against a creature biologically engineered to destroy fabric. The employee asked whether her dog was a heavy chewer, to which she replied, "Well, he ate my sofa last year, but that shouldn't matter." The stuffing exploded out of the bed like it was auditioning for a snowstorm simulation. Yet she blamed the company for misleading softness. When the manager declined the refund, she declared that the pet industry had grown too soft, unlike the bed, and stormed off while the dog cheerfully gnawed on the remains in the parking lot, proving the true culprit was four-legged quality control. 19. A man hauled in a patio umbrella snapped clean in half and dripping with seawater, demanding a refund because it couldn't handle a gentle breeze. Witnesses later revealed his gentle breeze was actually a full beach storm he decided to outsmart by anchoring the umbrella with optimism and a single sandal. The umbrella flipped, twisted, and sailed away like it was auditioning for an air show before landing in the ocean. He retrieved it 3 hours later and brought it in like a fallen hero, insisting manufacturers should test products against realistic American wind conditions. The staff pointed out that hurricanes are not considered realistic. He argued he wasn't asking for hurricane protection, just resilience against playful gusts, which apparently included airborne sand and sideways rain. The umbrella, bent like a defeated lawn sculpture, offered no testimony. 20. A furniture store faced a customer returning a recliner whose footrest hung limp like it had given up on life. He complained the chair malfunctioned, eventually admitting he'd been using it as a launchpad to get momentum for VR workouts. The chair failed not under normal reclining, but under repeated attempts to simulate parkour in a living room. He accused the recliner of false advertising because it promised full support, which he interpreted as emotional and athletic encouragement. When reminded that furniture cannot double as gym equipment, he claimed he was pushing ergonomic boundaries. The chair, traumatized by its athletic career, refused to recline without squealing like it needed therapy. The refund was denied, and he left disappointed, already planning to test gravity on his coffee table instead. 21. A customer returned an air fryer coated in what looked like the aftermath of a small barbecue explosion. She explained she attempted to cook a whole lasagna by stacking it vertically inside the machine because space efficiency is important. The lasagna collapsed, melted, and fused to the fryer walls like culinary cave paintings. When the employee gently explained that air fryers aren't designed for layer-based architecture, she countered that the brand promised versatility, and she assumed that meant architectural freedom. She wanted a refund because the fryer failed to anticipate creative cooking methods, a phrase that suggested she expected prophetic engineering. Denied, she left holding her molten lasagna sculpture, still insisting it should have worked if the device had more vision. 22. A man demanded a refund for a camping tent that had ripped down the middle during what he described as routine outdoor use, leaving out the part where he tried to fit it over his truck to create mobile shade technology. The tent tore instantly, having been stretched beyond the limits of fabric and dignity. He argued the tent was marketed as all-weather, and therefore should tolerate flexible interpretations of usage. The employee explained that vehicles aren't recognized weather patterns. He blamed the company for not warning consumers that tents aren't wearable for automobiles, insisting the product lacked imagination. The tent, now a pile of defeated nylon, offered silent confirmation that physics is still undefeated. 23. A woman presented a melted scented candle and demanded compensation because it melted too easily, which is quite a bold stance against a product whose only job is to melt while smelling pretty. She admitted she left it on her car dashboard in the middle of summer, apparently believing candles should possess the strength of industrial steel. The wax liquefied into a pastel avalanche, coating her console like an arts and crafts oil spill. She insisted the label should say, "melts in heat," as though that weren't already implied by the word candle. When denied a refund, she stormed out vowing to never buy from heat-sensitive brands again, a category that includes every candle in existence. 24. A man attempted to return a treadmill that had clearly spent time outdoors in a heavy rainstorm before being defeated by moisture. He insisted he only left it outside temporarily, meaning 3 days, during which it heroically transformed into a very expensive slip and slide. When the machine inevitably shorted out, he claimed the warranty should cover atmospheric conditions. The employee reminded him that treadmills are not part of the weather-resistant family of appliances. He countered with, "But people run outside." The rebuttal, "People are not treadmills," failed to move him. The treadmill, now rusted like shipwrecked treasure, was deemed non-refundable. 25. A customer slammed a waffle iron on the counter, its hinges warped and plates scorched. He explained he tried cooking bacon inside it to make waffle bacon, believing he'd invented a new food genre. The bacon fat turned the waffle iron into a flamethrower, leaving it smelling like a campfire's regrets. When the store refused a refund, he argued it was a creativity tax and claimed innovators are never appreciated in their time. The waffle iron, now possessing the structural integrity of a wilted sandwich, symbolized the cost of culinary ambition. 26. A woman returned a wall clock complaining it ran too slow. Further questioning revealed she never replaced the battery because she assumed clocks pull power from the air. When informed that clocks are not spiritual energy harvesters, she suggested the product should warn buyers that batteries are required. The employee pointed to the enormous "battery not included" label. She said she thought that was just a suggestion. The clock was denied asylum. 27. A customer demanded a refund for a blender jar he'd melted by attempting to puree boiling soup directly on the stove. He placed the plastic jar over the burner to save time, melting it into a Salvador Dali exhibit. When the employee said blenders aren't stovetop cookware, he replied, "Well, they should adapt." The jar, now a surreal puddle, proved adaptation had not occurred. 28. A man returned noise-canceling headphones claiming they made things too quiet, insisting he felt socially isolated. He had used them at a construction site, where apparently the silence made him lose track of conversations with coworkers, which is an interesting way to describe ignoring jackhammers. He demanded a refund plus emotional damages for excessive tranquility. The store declined. 29. A customer attempted to return a cutting board with a giant crack through the middle, claiming it couldn't handle normal chopping. He eventually revealed he'd used it as the base for hammering craft beer caps into a homemade art piece. When told the board wasn't designed for blunt force metalwork, he asked, "Then why is it made of wood?" The employee did not answer, fearing the philosophical spiral that might follow. 30. A woman dragged in a rug, stained with enough mystery substances to qualify as a forensic puzzle. She insisted the rug was defective because it absorbed spills too willingly, an accusation that redefined the concept of absorption. When asked what spilled, she recited a list that sounded like kitchen chaos bingo: wine, gravy, kombucha, something called experimental sauce, and one incident she declined to discuss. The rug's refund was denied on moral grounds. 31. A man brought in a shattered snow globe, demanding his money back because the inside scene collapsed under pressure. The pressure in this case was him shaking it violently in an effort to create a blizzard worthy of cinema. The glass exploded, showering his living room in glitter and tiny plastic villagers whose expressions, if they'd been capable of emotion, would have screamed farewell. He argued the snow globe should withstand realistic meteorological reenactments. The employee suggested shaking it like a normal human next time. He left unconvinced, still dreaming of storms that never were. America truly outdid itself today, and somehow we've only grazed the surface of the refund-fueled chaos. Drop your favorite disaster below, or nominate the dumbest offender, and brace yourself for the next round.